I'm John Hill, Media Director for the Detroit City Council Media Services Division, and today your host of the Council View. Today we have a very special guest with us, Inspector General James Heath, a person who has served in all aspects of city government, who I had the privilege of knowing many years ago when he served under the Honorable Council Member Gil Hill. And James, I just want to say it's a pleasure to have you on the show, and it's a pleasure to have you here with the city doing what you do now.
Well, thank you, John. Thank you for having me.
Now, you have actually, this office, you got appointed to your office when exactly?
September of 2012 is when I started work. The council officially appointed me in July, I believe it was. I was still serving as an assistant attorney general at the time, so I had to close out some of my cases before I could actually come aboard here with the city.
All right, well, what I want to do is I want to take a little break right here, and when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about, because a lot of people might not know this, but you love Detroit, you're a native Detroiter, you're born and raised in Detroit, right?
I am, that's right.
All right, so we're going to find out a little bit about your beginnings, if you will, and then we're going to go into, and I would like to talk about a little bit about your history, but how it prepared you for your position right now, and what the Inspector General's position is all about.
Okay.
That'll work. So we'll be right back after these messages. Please stay tuned, and as I always say, call all your friends, call all your family. We have one of the most important positions that we'll be discussing today in city government is the Inspector General's office. So we'll be finding out who James is, who Mr. Heath is, who Inspector General Heath is, and what that position is all about. We'll see you right after these messages.
It's all fun and games until someone loses a life. Words have consequences. Think before you speak.
Thanks for staying with us here on Council View, where we're talking to James Heath, the Inspector General for the City of Detroit. James, as I said before, man, I feel so privileged to have you here today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a wonderful opportunity to talk about the work that we're doing in the Office of Inspector General, so I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, and I guess first let's just go back, and you have this position. It's a position that you really have to be humble and to serve in that capacity, but like we were saying about some of your humble beginnings, you grew up where?
I grew up here on the west side of the city of Detroit, and I still live here in the city. Like so many families across this city, my parents came from the South in Georgia.
Yeah.
And,
what part of Georgia?
Sardis,
okay.
Georgia, which is not too far from Augusta. Area.
Okay.
And so my father and his brothers were bricklayers by trade. Their father taught them the craft and had a dream that all of his sons would one day go into business, and that's exactly what they did in starting Heath Brothers Construction right here in the city of Detroit.
That'll work. That'll work. So when did Heath Brothers Construction first start?
Well, you know, my dad will be upset with me because I don't have the exact year.
Right.
But I will say this: my father began working with them at a very young age. At 16, he was the youngest journeyman bricklayer in the city of Detroit. And so he stayed with the firm through the ups and downs of business. You know, at that point, it was very, very difficult to be an African American owned company here in the city and really anywhere in the country. And so after a while, the business did dissolve, but my father and several of his brothers went on to work in city government. And had distinguished careers there. My father with Water and Sewage Department.
That's what I was going to ask you.
That's right. And two other uncles with DPW. And so my roots in city government run deep. My mother was a Detroit public school teacher for a number of years.
really?
That's right. And so
Yeah.
public service is instilled.
Is what y'all do.
That's right. That's what we do.
That'll work. Yeah, I hear a lot of people. Matter of fact, when we were at the community evening meeting the other night, I heard somebody come up and reference your father and say, "Oh, are you related to him? Is that, you know?" Yeah. So your father did a lot of great things here, and my mother too was a school teacher. You know, starting out, and you couldn't have a more honorable career than being a school teacher in the city of Detroit, because you had an opportunity to help so many children, and especially those of the black community also.
It really is God's work.
Yeah.
You know, our children, we all know children are our future, most important asset that we have as a community. And so the men and women who do that work on a daily basis, we just can't give them enough thanks.
I know that's right. Now, what school did you go to? You know, in grade school, high school?
Sure. I went to various elementary schools throughout southeastern Michigan, but I graduated from high school here in the city of Detroit at U of D High.
Oh, you graduated from?
Yeah, U of D High. And
Yeah.
so I went there from 7th grade on through 12th grade, and was really proud to attend school at that fine institution. Another institution committed here to the city of Detroit.
Absolutely.
That's right. And so I'm a proud U of D Cub.
Yeah. Did you have a Senor Rodriguez still there when you?
Senor Rodriguez taught me Spanish.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
yeah.
You know, my brother went to U of D, and Senor Rodriguez left such an impact on all the students. I didn't even go to U of D, and he left an impact on me.
That's right.
And you know, that he really personified what teaching is all about.
Yeah.
And I remember when you used to get a word wrong, because he had, if I remember, he had a finger missing.
Yes,
And
yes.
he used to point on you with that.
You know, Senor was a former Marine.
Oh,
And
right,
so
I remember.
He,
yeah.
you know, not only did he teach us Spanish, but he instilled a toughness and a work ethic.
That's what I remember.
Into all of us, and you know, he didn't play around, and he expected us to represent ourselves, our families, the school, and even him.
Yeah.
With dignity and character and class, and so he'd be disappointed that I'm not going to give this interview in Spanish.
Yeah, right. He used to be, my brother learned how to speak better Spanish at high school than I learned in college.
Wow.
And I hung out with some Costa Ricans in college. You know, I was their tour guide. But
Right.
yeah, but I guess, and Spanish is a funny thing. If you don't utilize it, sometimes, you know, some of those principles, it's not as easy as riding a bike, I would say.
That's right. You know, it's like any discipline. If you put it down or don't continue to hone it,
Right.
You'll lose it.
And speaking of that discipline, you carried that discipline on that you got, the hard work ethics that you got from your mother, your father, Senor Rodriguez, and I'm sure other mentors, into your life and your work ethics. Now, you went to Michigan State for a little while, right?
I did. I was enrolled at James Madison College, which is a residential college inside of Michigan State University, and focuses on public policy and the like. I was a political economy major there, and so kind of was able to cut my teeth on, you know, studying
cool.
governments, studying systems, you know, to see how things can best be run. And I just had a wonderful time at Michigan State. I'm a proud MSU Spartan.
Absolutely.
And so that was a real time of growth for me, and prepared me well to go on to law school in Chicago.
Yeah, so I don't have to ask you who you root for when the U of M plays Michigan State, right?
Well, no, you don't have to ask me for that. Yeah, well, you know, and it's always fun when our teams get together and bash in the Wolverines.
Yeah, you always know Michigan is going to win. one way or the other.
That's right.
The state's
That's
going
right.
to win.
That's
And I'm
right.
glad I said the state's
The
going to
state,
win.
that's right. I'm glad you cleaned it up.
Now, you went on there to become a lawyer.
I
so
did.
You went to,
I went to Chicago-Kent College of Law in Chicago, and the best thing that happened to me there was that I met my lovely wife, Malika, and we got married, started dating, and convinced her to come back home to Detroit with me. She's a native of Kansas City, Missouri.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
And so started to do my best to help repopulate Detroit with bringing her back home.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I remember now, we were talking about that you used to work for Gil Hill, Honorable Gil Hill, which
did.
was the first African-American male president of city council.
That's right.
Let's say. I loved working, you know, with and under, because I was working for all the council members, you know, back then, but I loved working, you know, for Gil Hill also, you know, as council president. He did a lot of profound things that, you know, well, let me just say this. It was magic, if you will, when Gil Hill worked here, and as president, he served very well.
Absolutely. I would not be in this position had it not been for Council President Gil Hill. And he set an example for me about leadership, about service to this community. And, a lot of folks just think of him as the council president.
Right.
But Gil had a distinguished career as a top homicide detective in the entire country.
Oh, really?
Yes, he was known throughout the 50 states as a go-to person for particularly difficult investigations. And so his service to this city and this community is unparalleled,
Stellar, yeah.
just stellar. And so I am so appreciative to him for the example he set for me,
Right.
for bringing me into his council family, and the relationships I developed there continue on even to this day.
Now, as far as state and local, and I guess in state government, what capacities have you served in to bring you to where you are right now?
I began practicing law in the private sector. I worked for a law firm, and one of our major clients was the Detroit Police Officers Association. And so it was a particular honor in that I had the opportunity to work with and on behalf of City of Detroit police officers who we rely on to protect us
Right,
here in the
right.
community. And so I represented officers on a variety of matters that they had in the civil, criminal, and administrative arenas. And so that was a wonderful, wonderful experience. Gave me a lot of insight into the inner workings of the police department, and frankly has assisted me in the job I have today.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so crazy how God prepares you. And a lot of times you don't know how he's preparing you or what he's doing or even the road that he's taking you
That's
on.
absolutely true.
But you have served in so many capacities that have led you right to the road that you're on, and really divinely and perfectly put you in this role as Inspector General.
Right. I've been blessed in my career, whether it's starting work with Council President Gil Hill. I also served as a assistant Wayne County prosecutor.
Right.
Under the leadership of Kim Worthy. And we all know the example that she has set for fighting crime,
Absolutely.
prosecuting crime in a just way throughout this city.
Right.
And so I was just entirely blessed to have the opportunity to work under her for a few years. Also served as an assistant attorney general with the state of Michigan, where I worked in two primary capacities. I did healthcare fraud prosecutions.
Really?
Yes, and so I had the honor of defending the integrity of the Michigan Medicaid system. So we prosecuted and investigated hospitals, doctors, insurance companies, businesses, anyone who would try to defraud the Michigan Medicaid system. And that's important because, as you well know, Medicaid provides a basis for so many
Absolutely.
low-income residents here in the
that
state
really
of Michigan.
need the help. Yeah.
That's right, and we need to make sure that the integrity of that system is up to par.
Right.
And
It's only so much money, and those monies need to go to the right people
absolutely,
to help them.
absolutely.
Yeah, James, I'm amazed at, and the more I talk to you, the more I'm amazed, because I know you from working with you and, things, and I always say this because a lot of people, since I've been down here for, I think, 21 years now, and we had, a matter of fact, the pleasure of interviewing Commissioner Warfield, the police commission chair, the other day, and I know him from back in the day,
Right.
too. And it's just, it just always makes me laugh, but yet gives me a sense of pride to know you, to know him, know these people and grow up, because you know them in one capacity, and then especially when I get a chance to interview, my eyes are really open to all the things that you have done and all the things that you are capable of doing, which makes me feel a little bit better and a little bit prouder, even more prouder of knowing you.
Well, thank you, John. That's the beautiful thing about our city. We're a large city, but we're a small city at the same time. And so many of us have been afforded opportunities because we are Detroiters, because we are committed to improving this town. And I'm just so thankful to be here, even amongst all the challenges that we face. I believe that so many of us are here in the right place at the right time to lead our city into its best days. I think our
it's
best
rebirth.
days are ahead of us.
The phoenix is rising.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, now we're about to go in to talk about specifically in our next segment. We're going to take a break right here about the Inspector General. But can you give me a brief summary of what that job entails?
Sure. We are a new independent agency, and the voters in the city of Detroit established our office when they approved the 2012 Detroit City Charter. And the function of our office is clear. We are here to root out fraud, abuse, waste, and corruption. We have jurisdiction over all City of Detroit public servants. That includes employees, elected and appointed officials, department heads. Importantly, we also have jurisdiction over all city contractors and subcontractors, and those who are seeking to be certified to do business with the City of Detroit. You know, it's not just the internal operations that we need to look at. We also need to make sure that when the city contracts for services, that we actually have those services delivered.
That'll work. And they made this position a 6-year position? Is
Right.
it?
The Inspector General is appointed to a single 6-year term and cannot be reappointed. And that's important.
That's very important.
You know, we are an independent agency, and you want, as the head of the agency, someone who will not be influenced by political pressures.
Bend, fold.
Right. And
Twist
someone,
in the wind.
Absolutely. Someone who is not trying to be reappointed to this position. And so the clock is running on me, and so we are really attacking fraud, waste, abuse, and corruption very earnestly because we have a lot of work to do, and at least my tenure will be relatively brief.
Can you look in the camera right now and let people know how they can get in touch with you?
Sure.
And the website, maybe the phone number.
Sure. If you have fraud, abuse, waste, or corruption that you would like to make us aware of, you can contact us in several ways. The first is by going directly to our website, and that is www.detoig.org, detoig.org. You can log a complaint there anonymously or by leaving your name. We prefer you to leave your name when you log a complaint with us. There is a link that you can get to us by. You can also send us a message via our telephone hotline. That number is 313-964-TIPS. 964-TIPS. 8477 is the number. And so either way, you can contact us with information, and we will have one of our talented investigators, auditors, or attorneys get back with you.
All right. I want to talk, when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about your love for this position and why you wanted to do this job so bad, because you actually left a job that you could have stayed with for, you know, retired on, if you will. But you chose to do this because of your love for Detroit. So we'll be right back after these messages with Inspector General James Heath. We'll find out now about some of the, I guess, how the meat and potatoes, if you will, of the Inspector General's offices. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages.
I wish I was in school.
If only I had a math test today.
Or a book report to give.
I wish I was in school.
I'll stay after class. I'll clean the chalkboard. I'll do extra homework. I'll skip recess.
I wish I was in school.
I wish I was in school.
I really wish I was in school.
School ends, but free lunches for your kids don't have to. Find your local food bank at feedingamerica.org/summer meals for help. Together, we're feeding America.
I look up to a lot of the older heads, you know, the innovators, the heads of the art movements of the past. They kept it really edgy, and like a lot of the Latin American muralists and Latin American artists, and their styles were very unique and new to their time. You know, somewhat controversial, but that's who I look up to mainly. Personally, I'm very excited about going to college. It's something new and it's something different than what I'm used to. I'm definitely going to be a little out of my element, but that's what makes it so exciting, is that, you know, it's something fresh. Well, there's so many opportunities that I think I could miss out on if I didn't go, you know? Getting into college takes planning and vision. You know, it's just like when I take a brick wall and turn it into a canvas for my art. Paintings help me realize that I've got what it takes.
Thanks for staying with us. We're back with the Inspector General, James Heath, and we're talking about who he is actually as a person, the fact of why he chose this position, and the fact of his constant love for the city of Detroit. We're about to go in now to find out exactly what the Inspector General's position is and what that job entails.
Sure.
So, James, when we left off, we were talking about you had a job that you could have just stayed at and retired, if you will.
Yeah. You know, I'm a prosecutor by trade, you know, and so I loved what I was doing. I was prosecuting large-scale embezzlement cases in the general criminal area here in the city of Detroit with the Attorney General's office, and you know, expected to be there for the balance of my career. And when the voters of the city approved the new charter establishing this office, I just thought it was a great fit.
Right.
And the council went about a nationwide search for candidates, and I threw my hat in the ring, and I was blessed to have been selected.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you're a prosecutor by trade, now you have a young man that's working with you named Kamal Marable.
I do.
Yeah, and you guys seem like, and you know, they even said it on the news that you're like superheroes that have came into here, like the dynamic duel or the Avengers, if you will, that came in to save the day in Detroit and make sure that people are honest and abiding, you know, and doing the jobs that they should do. But it kind of reminds me a little bit of what's the prosecutor that took down? It's one of my favorite movies. The prosecutor that
Elliot Ness.
Yeah, Elliot Ness. Yeah, Elliot Ness. Absolutely. So, but why did you get such, or why do you get such a great feeling out of making sure people do right?
Sure. Well, you know, we like to think of the superheroes as the voters who established this office. You know, to their credit, it was an important thing for them to do. But you know, first and foremost, I love the city of Detroit, and we all deserve, you, me, all of the citizens deserve an honest government, one that citizens can feel proud of. And that's our first mission, to give folks confidence in their city government. I encounter city employees every day. And you know, before I took this position, I was chairman of the Detroit Board of Ethics. And so we encountered public officials and employees. And John, I'll say that 99.9% of city workers are coming to work doing an honest day's work for
pennies on the dollar. If you will.
What sometimes is not even an honest day's pay, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, you know, it's important that folks have confidence in knowing that those folks are doing the job that they ought to be doing. And one of the ways we do that is by having a watchdog like the Office of Inspector General in place, so that those employees who are not being good stewards of the city's resources, who are engaging in fraudulent or corrupt activities, are brought to justice. You know, as a prosecutor, I brought criminal cases in courts throughout this state. Our role is a little bit different with the Office of Inspector General. We are not a law enforcement agency, and so we don't have the power of search warrants to kick in doors, if you will. But the charter gives us some power in terms of our ability to subpoena witnesses, and we have the keys to all the doors and contracts let here in the city of Detroit. And so we have the ability to really get down to the nitty-gritty, looking at systems, looking at the processes of contracts being let, whether or not those contracts are being fulfilled, and looking at the activities of city employees. And so that's a very important tool that we have. When we do find that there is probable cause to believe that a crime has actually been committed, after we have conducted a thorough investigation, I have the ability to turn that information over to either the Wayne County prosecutor, the state attorney general, or the U.S. Attorney's Office for prosecution. And that's an important aspect of what I do. I'm glad that I've been a prosecutor, so I have relationships.
No, both ends have the relationships.
Absolutely. I've got relationships and the ability to make sure that cases that need to be brought criminally are in fact given the attention that they deserve.
Now, how do you choose who to hand it off to, if you will, whether it's the county, whether it's the state, whether, you know, the Attorney General's office? Well,
you know, each prosecuting agency kind of has its own specialty, its own character, if you will. And so we do it on a case-by-case basis. You know, obviously we are housed here in the city of Detroit, And so our default place for handing prosecution's off would certainly be Kim Worthy's office, the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. It's no secret the wonderful work that she has done.
Yeah, her hands are full also.
Her hands are full as well. And so that would be our desire to turn most of the cases that we have over to her. But, you know, if she doesn't have the capacity at a particular moment, or if, you know, a case is related to other matters that a different agency has already been working on, we have the opportunity to turn it over to them as well.
That'll work. Now, also wanted to ask you, how are people, other than the phone calls, I guess through the emails, what are some other ways that people can contact you?
Well, you know, we are getting out into the community, going to community meetings, going to evening council meetings, block clubs, anyone who will receive us and wants to learn more about our office. And so you can bring complaints directly to me if you have them. You can stop by our office at 65 Cadillac Square and fill out a complaint form there.
Can they download them online also?
Absolutely. You can go to our website and do it. If you're going to go to our website, we prefer you to just point and click with our online system, though.
Okay.
And we're really trying to drive traffic there because, as you know, we've launched just in the last several days, and we've gotten a host of complaints already. And so when we
wait till this starts running.
Exactly. And so when we get them on our website, it's much easier for us to categorize them and keep them flowing.
Now, what about staying anonymous? And there's that old-fashioned thing that sometimes we forget about. It's called and putting it in a letter and sending it to you with, you know, no return address. But what other ways are there to remain anonymous if they want to report?
Sure. We want to make it easy for folks to make complaints. And it's not always easy if you are perhaps an employee to turn your supervisor in.
Right.
You
absolutely.
know, so we do allow citizens to remain anonymous. And that can mean if you don't want to tell us your name or your contact information, you can do that. Or if you're willing to give us that information but would like us to keep your name out of it,
You'll do that.
so to speak, we'll do that. Our preference, however, would be for folks to make themselves known because that will allow us to better investigate the cases that they have. I will say this, and this is important, the charter does provide for penalties for someone who would retaliate against someone for cooperating with the Office of Inspector General. And so if you are worried about a boss, a supervisor, or someone trying to get back at you, that's information that we want to know. And the quickest way to bring the full thrust of the Office of Inspector General down is if we learn that someone is retaliating against someone for making a complaint.
Now, is that something similar to what I hear about the whistleblower or something like that?
It's similar to a whistleblower, and you know, we will investigate that, you know, extremely harshly.
Now, another question that I would like to ask you about the Inspector General's office is, you know, a lot of people think because of what's happened recently, you know, it's no secret with city government in Detroit, some of the corruption that's been going on, or has went on in the past, I should say, that this is a new thing.
Right.
How did the Inspector General's office start? Was it a federal thing, and do other cities have this type of office?
Excellent point. You know, there's no doubt that the indictments and criminal trials of the last few years helped lead to the establishment of this office. But, you know, other cities across the country have them. Philadelphia, Newark, Baltimore, Cleveland, Chicago have had offices. And so Detroit is really in line with that establishment of that office in terms of a good government perspective. You know, you're right. It did, you know, most people are familiar with the federal OIGs. Each federal department has its own inspector general, and that they perform many of the same functions that I would perform here for the city.
And OIG is Office of Inspector General.
Office of Inspector General, that's right.
Yeah, all these acronyms, I got to get hearing them every day.
Right.
Well, I guess I would like, if you can, since we gave the audience a earful, if you will, what's the phone number again, James?
313-964-8477.
8477.
Can't remember that. 964 tips.
Tips, okay.
Yeah.
And the website, if you can look at the camera and give it.
www.detoig.org.
All right, we're going to take one more break. Then I want to come back and I'm going to let you lead the way on this, where you want to take the citizens of Detroit, why you are here again, and why it's so important that we address any problems that may be happening in city government. And then again, we're going to give the opportunity for you to reach out to them and how they can get in touch with you once again.
Sure.
So we'll be right back after these messages. You don't want to leave the tube right now, if you will. Or I don't know, if, James, if they're even calling it a tube right now. I think it's an LCD.
Yeah, that's right, the plasma.
Yeah, the plasma. But yeah, stay tuned. We're going to, these last 4 minutes roughly that we'll have to wrap this up, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the inner workings of the Inspector General's office, why it's so important, and how you can reach out and get in touch with them. And I guess one of the keys, why you should reach out and talk to them, if you will. So we'll be right back after these messages. Stay tuned.
It's time to join forces. Get energized and fuel up right. Because starting today, every kid in America has a mission. Bring out the action hero in you. Be part of the greatest action movie ever. The first movie that puts you in the action. Show us how you train and eat like an action hero. Join in at actionheroalliance.com.
Looking for these? You drive buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Buzz driving is drunk driving.
We don't win unless we work together.
It's how we play our best.
It's how we survive on the field.
When you're on this team, you learn to never give up.
Even if you're down,
you can never lose hope.
There are over 13 million people in the Horn of Africa
affected by famine, war, and drought.
More people affected than the population of New York City
and Los Angeles combined.
They need our help.
And we can't give up.
Text GIVE to 777-444 to donate $10.
$10 can feed a child for 10 days.
$10 can vaccinate 17 children against measles.
$10 can feed a family of 6 for 2 days.
Go to this site
and forward the facts to everyone you know.
The more people who know,
the more money we can raise.
And the more money we raise,
the more people we can help.
Together, we can help end this crisis.
Thank you for staying with us for this council view, where we're talking to Inspector General James Heath. You know, it's so easy to interview you, brother, because I mean, you know, some of our history together, and I know your passion for every job that you have worked, you know, here in the city, and your passion for the Inspector General's office. Now, we were talking a little bit, and I just want to make this clear that if somebody wants to report somebody, if you will, or some behaviors that aren't quite right, they have, and they don't want to be acknowledged, they have complete secrecy and privacy in reaching out to you.
Absolutely. If a person, and on all of our complaint documents, that's a checkbox. Do you wish to remain confidential?
Okay.
And, you know, some people have been, you know, checking that box, and we certainly respect that, and will hold their identities confidential to protect them.
Okay. Now, and can anybody, you have all oversight over everything, including your internet and your website and all that kind of stuff? So.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that, because we do have oversight over all city departments, one of the things that we thought it was important to do was to set up a secure environment. And so we have independence in terms of our case management system, in terms of our website where people will be issuing complaints to us, and so that folks can feel confident that not only will their information be anonymous if they choose to, but that no one can be looking at our systems to determine what our office is working on. You know, we wanted to set up this office as technically proficiently as we possibly could. And so we have a state-of-the-art case management system. We're pretty much a paperless office. And so we're trying to be as efficient as possible.
That'll work. Now, to speak about that, I was talking about one of your staff members that I know, and I know he's an honorable man and a dynamite worker, if you will. But you have, I would imagine you have a great staff working with you. Can you talk a little bit about your staff?
Wonderful. We have investigators who are experienced in investigating fraud and all sorts of cases, former law enforcement officers, so they have that background. We also have auditors on staff, forensic auditors who can pick apart the contracts that we discussed, can look at how funds are being spent, and really focus like a laser on rooting out fraud, abuse, waste, and corruption. The charter maintains that we have to have attorneys on staff. I am a prosecutor by trade, and so you know, we are just blessed to have wonderful, wonderful, dedicated employees who really have taken this mission to heart.
Right, and how did you go about picking out these employees, and what did they have to have? And I already know the answer to this because I know you, but what did they have to, what was one of the main things you were looking for other than expertise?
You know, I really wanted people who had a passion for the city as well. You know, this is an important job that they will be providing, and I wanted to make sure that folks, in addition to being excellent at what they do, in addition to being honorable and honest people, but really, you know, love the city of Detroit and frankly had demonstrated that love for the city in their prior work experience. We had a ton of resumes from people who wanted to work with the office, you know, just very, very well qualified people, and it hurt my heart that we couldn't bring on board all the people who really wanted to take up this mission, but I'm proud of the staff that we've been able to put together.
Yeah, and if there are any job openings that come up on your staff, somebody, you know, moves on to another position, how can they look at your website to see if there's any?
Sure. Well, you know, if you know, we primarily are hiring auditors and investigators, and so folks with that background, we would encourage them to contact us, at least give us a resume so that we can have it on file. And certainly we'd reach out when openings do occur.
You know, what I like to say is that you really have the largest staff in the city because you have a bunch of volunteers, if you will. So you have all the city workers and all the citizens who have any time could help you reach your goal to stomp out any type of corruption in the city of Detroit.
It's a collective effort. We could not do it with just the staff that we have. We need all eyes to root out fraud, abuse, waste, and corruption.
Absolutely. Now, James, is there anything, if somebody was, and this is one of my favorite questions, I always like that, somebody was sitting on the fence and they were wondering if they should report something that they saw or something that they know of, what would you say to them?
Make a complaint. If you are on the fence and you're not so sure if an issue does warrant our attention, make the complaint. Through our website, through our hotline. I review all of the complaints that come in, and you know, I am paid to make those decisions, and so we will give your complaint the attention that it deserves. I'd rather someone give us a complaint that is outside of our jurisdiction or not quite in line with what we ought to be doing, and I can let them know that, as opposed to missing out on a complaint that really could lead to improving the way the city does business.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you, brother, for coming out to the show, man.
Thank you, Jared.
Appreciate it. And maybe we can do this on a monthly basis or something where you can come up, or maybe every 6 weeks, but you can come back and tell us what you're doing new, where your community meetings are happening, where you're going to reach out to the community, and you know, and those type of things, and maybe you know, just some of the nuances that the office is starting to go into.
That would be wonderful.
All right. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do, James, is if you can look in the camera one more time and tell the citizens who you are, why this is so important to you, and how they can get in touch with you.
Sure. Once again, I'm James Heath, and like you, I am a Detroiter, and I love this city, and I'm committed to improving this city. And I have the honor of serving as the city's first Inspector General. And my mission, just like all the folks who work in our office, is to root out fraud, abuse, waste, and corruption. If you have a complaint that you would like to make us aware of, you can call us at 313-964-TIPS, 313-964-TIPS, or log on to our secure website at www.detoig.org.
All right, James, again, brother, thank you. It's been a pleasure, man.
Thank you, John.
And I knew this would be a great interview. So I think the citizens are much more enlightened about who you are, what you do, and how they can help. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And thank you once again for watching the Council View. You know, what we'll do is we'll keep on informing you about all the great things that are happening in the city, that there is hope and that there is a future for this city, that we are rising above the ashes, like council members say, and Councilmember Watson says many times, that we're the phoenix that's rising above the ashes. So we'll be each week telling you new things about the great things that are happening in the city. Be blessed and stay tuned.